Okay. Now you sent me a document earlier today on.
Yep, on the speed of light and
Mhm,
physics as we know it. Now
mhm,
that would take us in a different direction if you want to go there.
mhm.
So that's up to you.
Well,
You
this is an exploration document for both you and I, as I understood your description of it. And I'm looking at it here, and um, it's interesting. Let me put it up on the screen for everyone here.
what this is going to start to tie into is just to kind of set the background for this. Uh, a gifted and visionary genius individual like Nikola Tesla was well ahead of his time, and he did not have how can I say this? He wasn't the product of any sort of institutional education system like we think of the way that engineering is taught now in universities and the way that physics is taught now in universities. Um, and he was kind of just his own, you know, I don't know what you want to call him, a meditative genius who just sort of just looked, he studied nature and he studied stuff and looked at how it works. And when he came up with an idea, he said, why not? And he tried it and he began discovering more and more things. So we have many, many scientists. I'm not saying that they're not smart people, they're not intelligent people, but they have been brought up and indoctrinated into a kind of a standard view of physics, electronics, engineering, thermodynamics, a whole lot of different topics,
Well,
and there
if
this
I could,
limits them.
yeah, if I could kind of throw in something here, because it's something I've noticed. Um, they it used to be you were educated in the basics. Okay, let's start. Reading, writing, and arithmetic. Okay, let's start there. From there, you have the basics, and then when you went into advanced things, you were taught the basics. You weren't taught engineering per se, but you were giving the tools to be an engineer. Okay, whereas
But then you set yourself loose to go out and discover yourself. I mean,
yes,
that would be the best way to do it. I mean,
yes,
for you and me, we're both sort of like similar generations. What
hmm
was the best way for you to learn things?
hands on.
Go and take your stuff apart and see what's in there and see what makes it work. And then if you're good enough, put it back together again and still have it work.
Yeah,
All right. Yep.
with maybe 1% extra parts
Left
on
over. Yeah.
it.
Few. Yep. Yep. But that's the idea. It's that hands-on discovery. And so Satcom just put a comment out there, which is most engineers nowadays are mainly mathematicians. And if and there's advanced calculus mathematics that engineers use, and if you go to any one of the prestigious engineering schools, you will be indoctrinated into using that high-end calculus-based math in order to engineer electronic devices.
hmm
However, there was a guy by the name of Charles Steinmetz long, long, long ago. Instead of using calculus based mathematics to engineer electronics, he did so by way of algebraic algebraic mathematics. That's one step simpler, and symbolic mathematics. He didn't use that calculus based stuff, and he was able to do some amazing engineering. And I'll be watching for other comments from Satcom out there as we go forward with this. Um,
I before we get going too far here, I wanted to say, let's see, who was it that put this link out there? Ice Not. Thank you so much for this document here. They sent me. This is Lloyd's insurers refuse to cover 5G Wi-Fi illnesses.
wow.
Okay, and I just want to. I'm gonna read this later, but because of my 30 years in the insurance industry, and I do know what
Yep.
Lloyd's is about and how they work and all that. I'm
Yep.
going to read this document, and you may get it here or you may get it on my straight shooting show. But I love this because I can dive into this and really rip it apart. And why would Lloyd's not want to touch 5G Wi-Fi?
It's a bad risk. They're not going to make money on it. They're going to pay out more than they take in premiums,
Yeah, yeah.
and they
Yeah,
know it.
if you see an insurance company, especially Lloyd's, I mean, they do anything and everything as long as if you got the bucks for it. I guess there's just not about enough bucks for it, and the resulting losses, if when this thing when it crashes down on the whole thing, as well as the rest of this other crap that's going on, they know what's up. That's the thing. They know what's up
And,
here.
and you know what, Thumper? Maybe they will write someone a policy on electromagnetic physical harm due to 5G, but the premium's going to be really, really high. That's like if you go to Hawaii and you want to buy volcano insurance. Okay, look, you want volcano insurance? Don't go live in Hawaii. It's going to California and buying earthquake insurance right on the San Andreas. You might be able to get it, but the premium's going to be pretty darn high. So
Yeah.
that's like Lloyd's is just looking at it that way. Insurance companies are in business to make money.
Oh, they Lloyd's knows what's going on. They're in the financial center of London. They know what's going on. They're as deep state as anybody. The insurance industry is as deep state as anybody. And when they go down this road, that is a huge red flag.
You know, it's obvious, right? It'd be like trying to buy, missing chicken insurance in tornado country. Where'd all my chickens go? Oh,
all right. So I'm sorry. We kind of got a little bit off subject, but
that's good though.
but this is good stuff. Okay.
So I think this might take people into an opportunity to say, you know what? There are those kind of brain programs that we've been implanted with, and scientists and physicists are no exception. So get started. This is about some principles of physics that we've accepted, and that, I mean, Einstein built a whole system. You know, Einsteinian physics is all built on the speed of light. Okay, so we get into this. We'll just start reading here. The speed of light is said to be a constant of the universe at about 300,000 kilometers per second. The number is considered to be the speed at which massless particles such as electrons and photons travel through space. So it's an extremely important number because it's used as one of the bases for modern science. So a key property upon which they build that whole structure of modern science is that the speed of light isn't meant to change. Even if the light source is moving at speed, doesn't increase the speed of the light in any way. So this right away is the issue. We've got a whole bunch of scientists out there and engineers from all sorts of good universities, very, very bright and brilliant people who have got their whole knowledge base built up around the speed of light being a constant. That means that's what makes their equations and their theories and the things that they attempt to build work. So now what happens if that constant is no longer a constant, but if it's actually a variable? That would make a boatload of extra work for all these scientists, because now they got to start looking at things in a different way, and maybe things that they were expecting to work a certain way don't. And that's where somebody like Nikola Tesla comes in, because other scientists, perhaps contemporaries of the day, but also even some in present day, would not agree that Nikola Tesla's ideas work. But he proved some of them. He actually made devices that did work. But of course, they weren't financially profitable. So they got, once again, one more thing that got shelved. So there was a man who was free from predisposed notions that were imparted to him by, prestigious universities indoctrinating him in their knowledge base. He was free. So that's what this is about. This is about freeing ourselves from the idea that light does not have a fixed speed. It's variable. And here we go. All right, I'm down to the next paragraph. Gravity changes the speed of light. Experiments performed to measure the speed of light show that different results in a vertical plane compared with the horizontal plane showing that light speed was affected by gravity. Okay.
Isn't that
But
interesting?
yeah,
So
gravity
what
changes
is,
the speed of light.
so you have to ask yourself, what is gravity?
Well, it's something that's got some power over light.
That's pretty powerful.
So there you go. So they go on. The trouble with this discovery is that light is considered to be a massless particle that should not be attracted by gravity. So why do we see gravity slowing down the speed of light? Okay. Um, Einstein Einstein game up
I think they might
gave
have meant gave up.
gave up. Yeah. Einstein gave up with his theory of special relativity in an attempt to answer this light speed gravity puzzle. Now, if I could digress for a second, we have considered and pondered the ideas of extraterrestrials, other cultures from other advanced and faraway places that have vehicles that can travel at like wicked pissa fast speeds, and they can get light years of distance in within a reasonable period of time. So keeping that in the back of your mind, that maybe if we weren't so stuck on this limitation of the speed of light, and if we weren't so entrenched, or if many scientists weren't so entrenched in Einsteinian physics, then we might be a whole lot closer to unlocking the secrets of how to design vehicles that can travel intergalactically.
Okay, I want to throw in something here. Um, we talk about speed, okay, because in this reality, time is directly relatable to speed, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now we've explored the idea that time really doesn't exist. We manufacture it because it's a convenience, because we live in a cyclic world, day, night, seasons, blah 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 blah,
It works
and
for us, right?
it works for us. Okay. Now, if you extract time out, then what do you have left? Do you have speed?
You have a
Or
continuum. If you subtract time out, you have a continuum in which it given the right location and the right vantage point, perhaps anything at any time could be visible or experienced, or that you could go there.
if the idea of folding space and moving from one point to another instantaneously, okay, because it actually is sitting there instantaneously right next to you, but it's some people might refer to it as
An
dimensional
adjacent time
travel,
slice or something.
or the folding of time, the folding of the fabric of the universe, whatever you want to call it. But to be quite honest, I mean, think about it. Okay, we relate
We're
time and
linear.
distance.
We think in linear terms.
Mhm.
What if everything that ever was and ever could be is all there at the same time? We just can't see it because we're like ants that have to follow the little trail of sugar granules or
Mhm.
something. And
Mhm.
we never veer off that trail of
Mhm.
little granules, even though right next door to us are all of the other potential food particles that an ant would like. But
Mhm.
we never see them because we're just on that one single trail.
Mhm. Thinking of, you mentioned food
Now I'm
particles.
getting hungry.
Eyes of Texas. Time does. I do like a little bit of fresh time, in a lot of the dishes that I cook. Yes. All right. As we digress.
So this is really powerful.
Mhm.
This is opening the window to something that physics has, and again, there may be people at other levels of knowledge and awareness that already know about this stuff,
Mhm.
except it's not taught in the indoctrination programs in university schools, all the way down to high school level. High school physics all the way up. There may be people that know about this stuff,
Mhm.
but going in these directions and going in the directions such as a gifted individual like Nikola Tesla went. And he was talking about energy from the ether, free energy. Okay. It's
Mm-hmm.
out there. So this is a whole, I mean, we're opening up a lot of very interesting areas of investigation here.
Well, it's kind of funny because one of the things I was looking at here tonight, prior to landing where we did land on subject matter for the evening, I was looking at this Project Looking Glass from the mouths of the whistleblowers. And what was Project Looking Glass? It was an exercise in looking out in time. And you had Bob Lazar, Dan Bursich, and Bill Wood are some of the whistleblowers who talked about the use of this technology out at area the S3 at in the Area 51.
And this is not
Area.
one or two anecdotal accounts by, you know, unvetted people. This is many accounts. I mean, the techniques employed by the military, for goodness sakes.
Let's just drop in on where I kind of left off here for just a second here, and because there's a couple of, well, let's see here. Let's back up just a little bit. We're talking with Bob Lazar here.
Glass. Now, he didn't have direct experience with that project, but he had seen briefing documents on it, so that's what he mentions here.
Could you briefly describe Project Looking Glass and Project Sidekick for us?
Project Sidekick was another project going on with Galileo. Galileo was the project that I was involved in. Sidekick dealt with any of the weapon potential of the craft, whether or not the craft had a weapon in it, or could it be used as a weapon, but it had something to do with some sort of particle beam configuration where the gravity generator can be used as a lens to focus a weapon of some sort, similar to the SDI device we were working on in the 80s, but with the potential of a focusing device using the gravity generator.
And Project Looking Glass?
Project Looking Glass dealt with the distortion, the fact that there's a time distortion, essentially looking back in time, and by that I do not mean looking back years ago to see the wagon train days. They're looking for distortions that are milliseconds in time, and what that was used for, I don't know, but that was just observing the time, the time distortion, time dilation phenomena of the craft in operation.
So there you have it, Bob Lazar in 19...
Okay. Now, let's go back to our document here. So he's talking about time dilation distortions. Now, remember when we had Gene on and we showed that video of the gal with the phone here in Spokane, that as she panned the phone across the horizon, there was that warp, that
some sort of a rip in the fabric of the sky.
It appeared to be, yes. And it was very perceptible, and it was on more than one device. So it's not, the device didn't like that particular compass coordinate. It was something that was visibly picked up by the camera, and the sky actually just kind of warped right there. What in the heck is going on? You know?
Well, imagine that gravity is liquid, all right, and that the speed of light is plastic, and that time is a complete picture that's all on the table all at once. It's all there. You know, I mean, this is crazy stuff to try to wrap our heads around, but we have real evidence that gives credence to some of this stuff. Just because they don't teach it in universities doesn't mean it's, just because it wasn't part of the official reality purported to you by the 5 major news networks doesn't mean that it isn't true, does it? Stuff like that. We've got so much to learn. We're at the forefront of a brave new frontier. It's absolutely amazing.
Well, you know, let's just consider, if we're dealing with, let's say, like you say, everything is laid out like a, on a big flat surface. It's
Big
all
fabric. Yep.
a big, huge fabric, right? And you're kind of standing over it. And if you could go down into any one point on that fabric, you're not, and it would appear that you might end up either in a in a future, something that might have been the future that in your perception hasn't happened yet, or you might be able to go back into a a point on that plane of existence that might have been in your recollection in the past. I mean,
Yep.
it's a you really kind of got to blink blink, knock knock, get your head around this.
Well, we
It's-
also can go into other wild territory, which is how could it be that you, me, or anybody else could know about or experience any of the other parts of that time fabric, given that we have terrestrial evidence that our earthly bodies age, they're born, they age, they die. Well, maybe who and what we are is not something that is limited or encompassed just in this physical body. Earth to earth, dust to dust, you go back to the earth. Maybe that is where we find those higher levels. That may be where we might find the place in reality where the creator of all of it lives. Who knows? Higher selves. Yes, our bodies obviously fall apart and break. Okay. But is that all of us? So it opens up a whole lot of, but it might be good to just maybe focus on just one for a little while here. We could do about 25 shows. Okay, so I'm on gravity changing the speed of light, and okay, so Einstein gave up on his theory of special relativity in an attempt to answer the light, speed, and gravity puzzle. His solution suggested that the speed of light isn't affected by gravity at all, rather that it is time that gravity stretches or compresses, which allowed the speed of light to stay constant. You see, because he built his whole, his life's work was about relativity. It was all built on light being a constant, speed of light being a constant. So rather than for him to have to, at old age, start a whole new thing again, he just said, nah, I'm just going to leave it the same. So anyway.
Well, here's another thing. Look at this theory. All right. Shine a beam of light down into a, let's say you have a glass tub filled with water.
Okay.
All right. The light is changing from the atmosphere density
water.
into the water density, and into the water whose density is much heavier than the atmosphere.
And it bends.
Yeah, it bends because it slows down the light.
Yep.
It's not just refracting; it actually slows down the light. And eventually, when you get past 30, 40 feet and in water, you lose light almost. The colors and the different spectrums, and that's why when you get certain depths, certain colors don't appear anymore because it has filtered out. So you have a clear. Yeah, I mean, if you had a light down there, you could light it up and get the colors back. But okay, I digress.
Yep.
Keep going though.
So we're gonna it's gonna get into a couple of examples which antagonize Einstein from a number of different angles. I'll read on. Liquid gravity changes Einstein's theory of relativity. Liquid gravity theory would want to challenge this very successful relativity theory by swapping the variables, suggesting that time is a constant and the speed of light is variable. Okay. So there was an experiment done. It sounds like, it almost sounds like a Russian name, Pound Rebka experiment shows that light speed changes. In 1959, an experiment was considered to be a test that verified Einstein's theory of general relativity that tests the prediction that clocks should run at different rates at different places. Okay, using a method called redshift and blueshift, where light spectrums change to demonstrate light speeding up or slowing down. Now, Einstein declared that light speed is meant to be a constant, so considered that time would be stretched or squashed. Liquid gravity suggests that light speeds up and slows down, and that time is a constant. Now, what I would submit to you maybe is that neither one of them are constants, but I won't go there because that's just my theory.
Well,
Uh,
if you look at what I was talking about earlier, time is a construct that we use to make sense of our world.
that's right. That's right. There's something about the way that we're built, at least here on this earth, that we need that linear progression through a day or an hour. We just somehow that's just everything about our, tick, 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 tick. It's just the way we work here on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
But that's in the earthly plane. So we go to the next paragraph here. Let's see, we got 1 hour left. I think we can do it, or part of it. Space-time or light speed variation. Okay, so all modern technology relies on Einstein's theory of relativity to calculate variations in speed of communications from Earth to space. This successful technology remains the biggest support for Einstein's theories. However, the maths still work correctly when you swap the key variables of light speed and space-time. See what they're saying there is, okay, yep, Einstein, you came up with a good construct that works so that we can do things in the physical world and we can make GPS function and, do all sorts of calculations and get the right answer. But we could still get the right answer if you allowed light speed to be variable and made space and made time the constant.
Mm-hmm.
So,
See, but now with the changing, we are experiencing electromagnetic changing of our Earth. The magnetic pole is changing. We're they say that we're experiencing tremendous changes in the magnetosphere of the planet. Various different things. Are the sun and its effect on this, if any. I mean, we're seeing a time of some things that we always thought were somewhat constant are now going like wonky on us.
yeah, it's easy for us to get lulled into the complete constancy of the Earth because it advances in geological time, which is measured in hundreds of thousands of years, and it usually does things fairly slow. Every once in a while, something fast happens, but we get into a comfort zone here on Earth,
By the way, are you reading off of the document because I know you have this document? Are you reading off of that? I need to run and get a cup of coffee and take care of something.
I got
quick.
it. I got it.
I'll put this up on screen so everybody can see it, or if you want to share, fine.
Yep, you leave the diagram up there, and
okay, I'll be right back.
Yep, sure. So to just further frame this whole thing, just a little bit, and it's a really neat thought experiment that when we just accept what we've been told and it kind of works as a way for us to model or understand our environment, we kind of aren't motivated to go and look for any other theories because we've got something that works. And Einsteinian physics is a really good example of that because given his formulation of it, it did work. It has worked and it can continue to work. But other formulations will also work. So here, Einstein's formula was that light speed is constant and space-time is variable. So he determined that no, and this is the term they use, no luminiferous ether or quote unquote liquid gravity, and that light speed is an unchanging constant. He suggested that the slowing down effect was caused by gravity compressing space, which had the result of slowing time. So that's what he said. Light's constant, but gravity does things and it warps space. That's Einstein. Now, that's one. And it's not on your screen right now to see, but it's the next paragraph down. When Thumper gets back, he'll scroll it down. The liquid gravity theory is this one, that light speed is variable and space-time is constant. So liquid gravity determines that there is a luminiferous ether, liquid gravity, and that light speed is a variable that slows down through the liquid, and that the slowing down effect is caused by gravity compressing the luminiferous ether, which has the result of slowing down the speed of light. Whole different way to look at it. And actually, there are a couple good diagrams further down here that you will hopefully see fairly soon. I will read a little bit more, though. So, in 1971, two physicists set out to test Einstein's theory of time dilation to see if time could squeeze or expand. To see if they could squeeze or expand time by flying around the world in each direction. Okay, they used 3 atomic clocks. One they left on the ground, the others they used to fly in each direction, resulting in the 3 clocks showing different times. The question is, did they prove time can slow down and speed up? Did they actually prove that? So the results of the experiment showed 3 different times. One direction, time went faster. The other direction, time slowed down. And the clock they left in the same place remained unchanged from the current time. So the physicists declared that this experiment was solid proof that Einstein was right, and that time had indeed expanded into the future and contracted in the past. But here we have the problems with these conclusions. And I actually could share this screen. Maybe I should. Yeah, let me just, it'll take me just a minute to get it hooked up. And so anyway, while I'm getting that thing going, it's just a good way to apply this, the idea of not assuming what we're told is true and not jumping to conclusions just because we've come up with a model that works. And once again, Satcom, you've given me some really good stuff to dig into there, because it's outside of the realm of, say, institutional education, and it really makes me think, and I really do appreciate that. So thanks for that input. And I think I just about have my share ready to get up there now. And let's see. Click off the little box here. Who knows what it's going to look like until I get it sized right. Okay, that's acceptable. All right, so these guys, these brave guys, went and proved Einstein's theory in 1971. All right, so here are some of the problems with it. Problem number 1. The results did not change celestial time, which remained the same. Well, I mean, that's like the elephant in the room. Okay, so here we had one jet plane flying a clock around the globe in one direction, another jet plane flying around the globe in another direction, and then one clock on the ground. And now all 3 clocks are different. Okay, but guess what? None of those things affected the time in the rest of the galaxy whatsoever. So what exact time was it that it changed? That's a very, very interesting, it's almost a compelling argument to say that theory's got a hole, that Einstein's theory has a hole in it. All right. Problem, Thumper, I pulled the share because I needed to advance down a little bit, but you can take it back.
Oh, no problem. Keep going. I can see it very clearly here.
Okay. Problem number 2. The other aspect was each clock could be viewed simultaneously while they existed in different time zones of the past, present, and future. Whoa, that's huge. Would you care to speculate on that? That's big. That's a real big one.
So Superman flying around the Earth really, really fast can change time?
Well, the idea is, I mean, they're practically proving that you can see different times from one vantage point. They're practically proving
Mm-hmm.
that remote viewers would be able to look into different times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, that gives credence to what those guys do. And there's not just a couple of, crackpots doing it. That's a whole field of study.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. And that diagram that they show of the time dilation experiment, that diagram right there, in the northern hemisphere, it appears they have an aircraft flying clockwise, and in the southern hemisphere, we have an aircraft flying counterclockwise, and the counterclockwise going basically. Well, let's see. The Earth actually rotates.
You got to decide whether you're looking at the Earth from the top or from the bottom in order to define clockwise or counterclockwise.
Right. And then the phenomenon of, you flush a toilet in the northern hemisphere, the water circles one way. If you go to the southern hemisphere, it actually circles the other way.
The Coriolis effect, yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it is wow, just it's great to have theories and models that we use, because we need them as much as we need linear time to function on this Earth, by a clock that advances by the minute, by the second. It's good to have those things, but that I think it's kind of good for us to realize just how limited we are here on Earth in this terrestrial plane, and that there's a whole big other realm of reality out there. And these guys, these brilliant people, okay, such as Charles Steinmetz, such as Nikola Tesla, and anyone else that you think of, Thumper, they were not inhibited. They were not shackled by that earthly thinking. These guys, they were amazing. Now, Einstein was a great mathematician, and he went to work with his calculus and his pieces of paper, and he came up with a really good model that expressed what a lot of the evidence that we see around us is, but not all of it. So I'm not taking any thunder away from Albert Einstein, at least not in this area of subject, maybe in others. So that was problem number 2, which to me is absolutely compelling, which is that each clock could be viewed simultaneously while they existed in different time zones of the past, present, and future. Now, let's go to problem number 3. The physicists didn't use a mechanical clock as suggested by Einstein, but rather they used a clock that uses light speed as its measuring stick. So it could be that this experiment simply proves that light speed can change by moving in different directions. If they had used a mechanical clock, they might have found that time didn't move back or forward, because mechanical clocks don't employ light waves to measure with. All right.
That's interesting. And why didn't they do that? It would have been very easy to do.
It would have been easy to do, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Do you think maybe they designed the experiment, Thumper, in such a way as to help substantiate and support Einstein's theory?
The fact that they didn't, I mean, why was I able to just say, well, why didn't they use a mechanical clock? Because that would allow another parameter to be considered,
right?
And would either substantiate or disprove what they were trying to.
Exactly.
Okay.
So reframing on this, we have felt, at least, or we've been educated for a long time, and many prominent astronomers would tell you that you'll never get to the stars. You'll never get there, because the amount of time that it'll take you to travel 100,000 light years across the Milky Way galaxy, you and all of your 1,000 generations will all have died from old age before you get there. And you can't do it because as you approach the speed of light, your mass starts to increase, and therefore the amount of fuel that you'd need would be huge. So we've been kind of locked into this belief that interstellar travel is impossible. We've been educated. We've been indoctrinated into that.
But they, when we, let's take a look at the popular TV show, one of my popular TV shows, Stargate. They have hyperdrive engines. What a coincidence, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
But they, what is that? What are they actually referring to? Is it they're talking? They represent it in the TV shows as you're basically offsetting from the current dimension that you exist in. You're not slipping into another dimension, but you're not in resonance with your home dimension, for lack of a better way to put it.
Yep.
And in doing that, you're able to, kind of slipstream through. In a way, it's like the folding of space. It's also the theory that's kind of they utilize in the Stargate theory is creating a wormhole between 2 points that allows instantaneous travel or
very fast transition from one to the other.
Yeah, milliseconds once you walk through one side and come out the other side. Which is, the idea of you're bringing 2 points in time or space. What is it? Are you folding the fabric of time? Because they do refer to it as a fabric, right?
Yep.
Right.
Which galactic shaman types in there, timelines intersect dimensionally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so when you use the term fabric, so you lay a piece of a cloth out on a table and you say, okay, I've got this side over here, this side over here. Now, if I just fold this over right here, they're right next door to each other. And then the sewing needle can pass through one into the other,
at the same time, almost,
lickety split.
So now there we are. We just created something that we can visualize in our three-dimensional world, which is the fabric was flat, and that you can make it three-dimensional by picking one part of it up, folding it onto the other. Now it's 3D. You can crumple it up, lay it out. What if the reality of all of this existence is in another dimension, in which all of those parts are all connected? The point is, regardless of whether we folded it or not.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying?
Exactly.
At a higher reality, you don't have to fold it for them to all be connected. And that's where I think we're going, is that it's all connected. Wait a minute. Didn't the number after 16 say it's all connected once?
Mm.
It's all connected.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it is. Anyway, where let me see.
Problem 3.
Thing back up. Yeah, I'll put it back up. Hold on one second. Find the Zoom screen and hit this. Get the right window. I like the way I talk to myself while I'm clicking the thing here.
That's okay.
The physicist didn't use a mechanical clock as suggested by Einstein. Okay, so anyway, we move on to the next little challenge. There is an experiment called the Sagnac Effect that demonstrates the exact same process without any claims of time dilation. Okay. In this experiment, now let's just study this here. Light and atomic clocks run at different speeds at different heights in different directions. I'm looking at the diagram.
Mm-hmm. You have the Sagnac light effect, and this is where they're using the mirrors, isn't it?
Mirrors.
Yeah.
Yes. Look at that. So it shows how light rotation around mirrors in a circle in different directions will produce faster and slower speeds. Wow. We didn't have to fly planes. We didn't have to move the objects. We're not having to move these mirrors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Light rotation around mirrors in a circle will produce different speeds. Okay, light moves relative to its local space, which would appear to condense or expand time in the same way as the global tests change the atomic clocks. So, a simple experiment to prove this point would be to rotate an atom clock in one direction for an extended period of time, then rotate another atomic clock in the other direction. You get different times on each clock, as was the case with the global flight atomic clock test.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, and again, this is huge, because if there is some sort of a theory that can stand on its own legs, that shows that the speed of light is not a constant, then that means that we can open the door to faster than light speed travel, and that means that you could get somewhere on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy
Hey,
before you grew old.
okay. Yeah. Can you drop your share for a second? I clicked on
Absolutely.
that little button
it.
there that said more.
Yep.
It's,
You found something good.
yeah, it's the Sagnac. It actually is a Wikipedia explanation of the Sagnac effect.
Excellent.
All right. Let me put that up on screen here. The Sagnac effect, also called Sagnac interference, named after French physicist Georges Sagnac, is a phenomenon accounted in interferometry that is elicited by rotation. The Sagnac effect manifests itself in a setup called a ring interferometer.
Yep.
I love these new words you have to figure out.
Interferometer, yep.
A beam of light is split, and the two beams are made to follow the same path, but in opposite directions, which was what you were showing in that diagram on the document there.
Yep.
On return to the point of entry, the two light beams are allowed to exit the ring and undergo interference. Okay, so. Okay.
That means they're allowed to meet each other, right?
Mhm.
In some sense.
They're
They're allowed to interact with each other. Is that what they're saying?
Undergo interference. So yeah, they're basically crashing into each other, I think, is what they're more or less saying.
Okay, I agree.
Okay. The relative phases of the two existing beams, and thus the position of the interference fringes, are shifted according to the angular velocity of the apparatus. In other words, when an interferometer is at rest with respect to a non-rotating frame, the light takes the same amount of time to traverse the ring in either direction. However, when the interferometer system is spun, rotating, one beam of light has a longer path to travel than the other in order to complete the circuit. So one is chasing the direction of the rotation. The other one is moving in opposition, thereby the point where they're taking the measurement is actually arriving sooner, thus giving the impression of the compression of time, while the other one is giving the impression of stretching time.
Thumper,
chasing a moving target.
That right there disproves one of the tenets of Einstein's theories about the characteristics of light, which is that if you had a ship and it was emanating light ahead of it, shining a flashlight ahead of it, the speed of that light would always be at the same speed, regardless of the speed of the ship. Why? Because the speed of light is constant, according to Albert Einstein.
Correct.
Right? That right there disproves one of the major parts of everything that Albert Einstein built. The limitations.
I'm glad we went here, because this kind of brought it all together for me.
That's big. That's great.
Did the 2 points connect in your head while in this? Like, because now it hopefully everybody if you're still awake, you're still paying attention and not exchanging pickle recipes out there. Did we connect something here for you guys?
think of it
Let
like
us know.
this. When they start rotating, yeah, I mean, I'm all geeked out on this now. Hopefully, I have
kinda
a
am
chat
too.
in a few minutes here. They're talking about, what are they talking about? Let's see here. Yeah, catching up to you guys in chat. Yes.
So, basically it is the
Yeah,
idea
everyone's
is,
tracking. They're
yeah,
tracking with us here. Yep.
okay.
Don't want to lose anybody.
Well, think of two cars on a racetrack. And uh they're uh the distance, okay, if one car is on the outside lane and the other car is always on the inside lane, and they're both told to drive the same speed, which one is going to get to the finish line sooner?
Well, I'll let you answer that question.
Okay. Well, one has a larger distance to go.
Longer distance, right?
All right.
Going to get there later.
It's going to get there later. Now, add into that, okay, now have two cars, basically one going one direction, one going the other direction. But now the racetrack is actually moving and spinning.
I got to share something with you from long ago when I guess it was in, which one was it? Let me think. My high school physics. No, it was in college physics. It was in first year college physics. I had an intuitive problem with the idea of the speed of light being a constant, because I looked at everything in terms of there being moving frames. This is me. This is just me as a kid thinking. And I said, no, it's like if I've got a flashlight and I'm pushing it at 5 million miles an hour, then the light coming out of it's going to go faster. And that is what this experiment proved.
Mm-hmm.
I always had a problem with that speed limit of light. Always from 40 years ago, I had a problem with it. I didn't know why, and I had never heard about any of these experiments. Just wanted to share that. It never sat right with me.
Let's see. The interferometer, George Sagnac, set up this experiment to prove the existence of the aether that Einstein's
Exactly.
theory of relativity had discarded.
Right.
Okay. So, and then here you have again, luminiferous ether or ether was the postulated medium for the propagation of light. It was invoked to explain the ability of the apparently wave-based light to propagate through empty space, something that waves should not be able to do. The assumption of a spatial plenum of luminiferous ether, or I guess if we want to see more of it, we can get it here. Again, this kind of one of the things that came to me as I was reading that, this, when you get out into space, you can't actually see the light from the sun. You need an atmosphere in order to see the light from the sun, or something to basically resolve that energy into something that we perceive as light and or that is visible to our eye. Because we know we have space satellites out there that look at the sun in different wavelengths, and we were able to measure and see and turn it into a visual picture as if you look at all these so again, you're looking at light in its different frequencies. I don't
Just
know.
one more.
Am I confusing everybody, or am I helping to kind of?
It confuses me, but you're highlighting some of the, a few more of the variable characteristics of light. So I think that's kind of the tie there.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going. Yeah.
And this is huge because it opens it opens the realm of investigation into slower than light travel and faster than light travel.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, I mean, in the back of my mind, I think about, well, if we can conceive of something, where do our ideas come from? Where does imagination come? If you can conceive of the idea of traveling to the other side of the Milky Way galaxy, then there's got to be a way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's ingrained in the human spirit.
Mm-hmm.
If you can think of it, there's going to be a way that it'll happen, and maybe somebody else is already doing it because they thought of it before you did. So it just that idea opens up a tremendously exciting future for humanity if we get there and don't annihilate ourselves first by way of corrupt politicians. But that's as I digress again. So yeah, it's fantastic.
This is stuff you kind of got to, let it roll around in the noggin there for a little while and kind of think and connect the dots.
But here's the thing. If we've got physicists out there that are trying to design things by what I'm going to say is caveman physics, and I think SATCOM might echo back on that. We're never going to get to the stars if we keep ourselves locked into the paradigm of caveman physics. And if there's something else out there, then if we aren't exploring it, and if we aren't learning about it, well, then we will never be able to utilize those concepts or ideas of free energy that Nikola Tesla was taught. We never will be able to, because we'll never go and look in that, we'll never open that can and look inside and see what's in there.
Tesla definitely threw the box away, man.
Yeah, throw the box away. Same thing with what we're talking about here. We will never travel intergalactically if we accept as the holy grail Einsteinian physics. We'll never get to the stars. So let's throw that box away too. In all due respect, Albert, I'm going to just throw that box away. I'm just going to do it. All right. Going on record right now. And the whole lot of other experimental evidence is showing that maybe we should. Now, where were we in?
Okay, I know we were down in this,
oh yeah, there you are.
frames govern light speed.
You're on it. Yep. Okay, so maybe what would be good is to just look at this diagram a little bit.
Kind of.
Why don't I
postulate on this?
Yeah. Let me grab the.
You want the screen?
Yeah, if I could. Only because I myself need to try to evaluate this diagram, and by way of doing that, I'm going to want to zoom in on it a little bit more, maybe go through it a little bit with everybody here. Okay, so what are we looking at? We are seeing, oh, and they give numbers here too. Okay. All right, so yeah, we got to get into a few numbers, but we won't stay in it for too long. All right. That's nicely zoomed in. Okay. Ether flow. Slow, fast, slow. Okay. Ether pressure. They're talking about a few things. Ether flow, ether pressure, and light speed. So now at the bottom, this yellow thing is light speed. And I am really having a hard, but I need help figuring this out. Light speed, and as we get closer, what it looks like down to the level of the Earth, then if we look over here on this side of it, the ether drag changes. So in outer space, there's an ether drag that is only 75 meters per second. As we get further and further closer in toward the Earth, the ether drag increases until we get down here, at which we're, let's see here, 450 meters per second. So there's quite a significant difference between those two. And that is in traversing a distance from, I'm just going to say probably like almost outer space. That's 300 miles up.
Yeah.
Approximately, right? 650 kilometers, about something like that. And when we get down, right down to the surface of the Earth, the drag is significantly greater.
Mm-hmm.
So the part of this Thumper that I can't quite figure out is this part of the diagram over here. I can't even figure out what they mean by this. I know they know
Well,
what they mean, but I don't.
okay. Let's see. Okay, let's use electronics, electrical theory here.
Okay.
Pressure is your current. All right.
Pressure is the voltage.
Or voltage.
Pressure,
Yes. Excuse
pressure
me.
is the voltage, and,
And
the
current,
volume is the current.
the
volume
flow.
is the current.
So your flow is your current, and pressure is your voltage.
Yes.
Okay, let's kind of look at it in those terms.
Okay, that might help. So the pressure goes up. So it's pressing, and the ether pressure gets greater the further that we go down closer to the surface of the Earth. Okay. All right. But what do you make of this, where these three are coming together here? Maybe we need to read a little bit of the explanation of it. I'm going to zoom back out and try and read. Hopefully I know
If
these.
you want to keep that up, I can read what is
Okay,
on the
good.
screen here.
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay. Liquid gravity suggests that ether is at the medium that light moves through. So light will behave relative to the state of the ether.
Yes.
Okay.
Got
Liquid gravity describes ether as having a number of properties that define its movement and density. Three attributes of ether frames. Frame property number one, ether flow. Ether flow is created by the suctioning pressure produced from atoms.
Oh my God, this is complicated. Okay.
It produces gravitational force. The flow rate. Okay. Now, remember when Gene was on and we were talking about gravity?
Pressing.
Pressing.
That it's not a pulling, it's a pushing.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That's right. Gene Consensi said that just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the flow rate increases as it approaches matter. Okay. So the greater the mass of the matter that it approaches, the greater the
pressure.
Gravity. Meaning when you have a large mass, such as the sun, a greater gravitational sucking, I guess, would be a way of saying it, or pressure you're going to experience, right? A smaller heavenly body supposedly has less mass, less gravitational force.
Right.
All right.
I think I'm following that to some degree.
Okay. Well, if we play around with it long enough, we'll figure out where the round holes meet the round objects and the square holes meet the square objects, and maybe. Okay. And reduces. Okay. And then it reduces as it approaches the center of matter. Its peak flow is at the surface of the matter. Okay. Now let's talk about something here. Let's talk about the sun.
There's more, because you see over on this part of the diagram where it says ether drag, the flow, the ether drag gets greater and greater as you approach that, the object of mass. Okay, go on.
Okay.
The sun.
Okay, let's talk about the sun, where they have actually recorded the temperature of the sun. The hottest temperatures are in the coronosphere. They aren't necessarily at the surface, and it doesn't get hotter as you go into the sun.
No.
It actually cools off. That's why you get these, what they call sunspots, where it's almost like as you're looking at the sky and you've got a partly cloudy sky, and you're looking through to the blue sky above when you have a break in the clouds. On the sun, when you see a sunspot, you're actually the appearance is you're looking down into the into the sun.
Basically a hole into the inner
Yes.
parts of the sun. Yep.
And if you and according to what I've understood, as you look down in there, it's the temperature actually is less
Yep.
than in the coronosphere, significantly less.
Yep. Yep. And I think some of the numbers associated with this are corona, millions of degrees, and it peering into a sunspot, 10,000 degrees, and lower as you look further in.
So Al Gore was really screwed up when he said,
Way
I
up.
thought millions and thousands of whatever it was he said, but you know, the sun. Remember that?
Millions of degrees. Yeah.
He's an idiot.
I'm momentarily just taking that diagram down because I want to see what people are saying out there. Sun, engine for life. Okay. 4-dimensional counterparts in our future. Okay.
Somebody
there is
actually
no
said I was
gravity.
a conformist, though. Who was that? I'm going back. I'm
world-
going to find out who.
No.
Yeah,
No.
I'm a conformist. Are you kidding me? That was funny.
But does that mean Ross Perot had it backwards also in the 80s when he said, you're going to hear that incredible sucking sound? No, it's not. It's a pushing. It's not a sucking.
Oh, he said,
All right.
Onlycuff says round objects and round holes. Thumper is such a conformist.
Right. Well,
Okay.
it's discipline and training.
Yeah.
All right. I'm just trying to catch up to the chat here. Okay. I think I did catch up. All right. Okay. So back to what we were reading, and we could continue. We got a few minutes left. Maybe we can get this to a point where we can actually defend our idea and our hope that space will be a frontier for us.
Mm-hmm.
And it will be a frontier by an attainable frontier by way of just keep relegating Einsteinian physics to more earthly areas, let's say, with all due respect, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when we want to go to the stars, we gotta go beyond and maybe even take Albert with us. I don't know.
So we've got ether flow.
Yes.
So ether decreases its flow speed by 4 times each time you double its distance from matter.
From matter. Yep. And that's what the diagram shows.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put it back up.
Yeah,
now.
go ahead and put the diagram up, and I'll
Yep.
I'll read these other descriptions of the other
Coming
two,
right up.
the density and the drag.
Okay.
Okay. Frame property 2, ether density. All right. Suction produces pressure layers that increase ether density as
Yep.
it approaches the matter,
And drag.
and it continues as it approaches the center of the matter. Its peak pressure is at the center of the matter. It has the effect of slowing light speed in the direction of the flow as the density increases. You know, light through water, blah, blah, blah. That's pretty much what they're saying there, from what I
Yep.
gather.
Yep.
Ether increases its density by 4 times each time you half its distance from matter. Okay, now what I get from that is it actually, it's like a traffic jam. All right, as
Yep.
you slow down, all the cars back up.
Yep.
Okay, so you have a density of the ether as it slows down.
Wouldn't you think that at the center of some sort of mass of sufficient size, the light might not be able to travel at all?
Well,
I
yeah.
wonder.
Well, no. Well, I mean, light, you know, well, look at what happens when you get down 50, 60 feet in the in water. You basically lose all light. Okay. Right?
Yep. Gotcha.
So, you know, and people will just say, well, it just filters out the light. The light doesn't have the pressure or the density,
Intensity. Yep.
the intensity, and so you know, and then ether drag. Ether drag is produced by the effect of movements of planet rotation and orbiting, which rotates at different speeds
Mm-hmm.
relative to the movement of the Earth's surface and its distance out to space. The NASA Gravity B mission has measured 2-meter frame drift per year at 650 kilometers. The rotation of the Earth through space is around 450 meters per second, or 1,670 kilometers an hour at the equator.
Yep. Right.
By dividing this speed over 650 kilometers, we can get a rough understanding of the frame shift of ether drag at various altitudes, which is what you're showing right there.
Right.
Starting
Right.
at 650 kilometers.
That's this.
Yeah.
Yep. That's this. Yep.
Okay. And then we have the stellar aberration mystery, which is the next one that they come to.
Is there another diagram?
Yes, there's a
I
diagram.
can't see it right now. Okay. Okay. There we go.
Okay. Light refraction and ether drag work together to create the mysterious stellar aberration. Astrologers are required to angle their telescopes rather than point them directly at stars in order to view them.
Did anybody know that? They actually have to aim a telescope not directly at the object because of this. I didn't know this.
I had no idea. No, I had no clue.
They knew it. They know because otherwise they wouldn't be seeing what they're trying to see.
Right. Interesting. So it's like when you're out at the gun range, you have to if you're doing long range shooting, all of the different variables, wind speed,
gravity,
and if you're out there far enough, you actually have to take into consideration the rotation of the planet.
Do you? So first you'd have to take into account that the bullet's going to drop, so you're going to need to aim higher. Then secondly, you've got to aim into the wind because the wind's going to push it. And then you've got to include the rotation of the Earth.
The Coriolis effect, yes.
3 main factors at least.
You have 3 things. Once you start getting out at 1,000, 2,000 yards, somewhere in there, when you talk about these guys that have made shots at a mile and a half, when you get out that far, yes, you're definitely going to have to. There's a certain amount of planet rotation that you have to take into account because of the speed of the bullet and all the other variables. That does come into effect.
So let me ask you this question: If this theory or these postulates were invalid, then why would astronomers have to aim their telescopes in different directions, and why would you on the range doing target not have to take this? It's like your experience and the astronomers almost prove that this is true.
Other than the fact on a firing range, you're actually dealing with sending a projectile out that is, taking a certain amount of time and energy to get to a certain point, knowing that the speed of the bullet is not constant.
It's going to slow down.
It's going to slow down. Whereas the speed of light, but wait a minute,
mainly going to be just affected by this ether drag. It's different.
Yes.
Or is it? Maybe the light does lose some of its energy as it has to fight against these factors. Maybe it is a little bit like a bullet.
Mm-hmm. But who actually figured out? I mean, okay, you would have to know the precise coordinate in space as you're looking at something through a telescope, in order to
Yeah, I know what you're getting at.
realize that you're actually
Not
curving the
aiming.
shot.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right. That's right. How do they know?
Okay.
How do they know that?
So, you know, it's like having a, let's say you have a rock tied to a string, you throw it down in the bottom of the pool.
I know how
right.
they know. I know how they know. Because they've got orbiting telescopes too, and they can compare. Maybe.
Possibly that's where that's you know where it came from. Or they knew of this slowing down of the light, because normally, you know, I mean, if you got it, you know, if you're looking at something through binoculars or telescope or periscope or whatever else, you just kind of look around. Okay, there it is. I got it. Yeah. But when you're looking out into space, into a, you know, something that's, you know, hundreds of light years away, hundreds of thousands of light years away, whatever, it becomes, because if you want to be able to see it at all, you've got to,
Notice one other thing here, and it's on this part of the diagram, which is that the light path also changes the angle of the light, the polarization of the light. Notice that it's different. It's actually at an angle that's almost pointed at a 45-degree angle to the surface of the Earth down here, if anybody can see that on this, versus up here, it's parallel to the surface of the Earth. So it's actually changing the angle of the light as well. Until finally, when this red depicted beam of light finally shines down on the Earth, it's coming in at a rather rakish angle. That almost looks like a 30-degree, bigger than a 45 at that point.
So liquid gravity has a solution for the mystery of stellar aberration. The mystery of stellar aberration is not just the fact that stars appear in different visual locations to their actual location, but the big mystery is, why are astrologers required to angle their telescopes away from the line of sight in order to see the stars they are viewing? The suggested reason is that the Earth is rotating and the photon is hitting the Earth at a sideways velocity that requires the telescope to be in line. However, when you do the maths at the Earth rotation, 460 meters per second, hitting light traveling at around 300,000 or 300,000 kilometers per
Kilometers a second. Yep.
The angle would be so slight that it wouldn't be noticeable. Liquid gravity shows how our planet is surrounded by increasing layers of compressed ether that has the effect of refracting light. This has the result of rotating the light wave.
Yep.
A further effect is the ether drag that is pushing the refracted light path closer to its real position, which minimizes the distortion of refraction. The ether drag doesn't alter the refraction angle of the light wave, and so when the light wave hits a telescope, it needs to be in line with the refracted angle of the light wave in order for it to be correctly observed through the telescope. Okay,
That's right.
I'm kind of getting the idea. This is polarization, like your polarized lenses, things like that. So that if you have, you know, a lens, you know, like glasses and sunglasses and different things with the polarization, where you know,
well, that refers to the plane that the wave is coming in at, whether it's a, you know, a horizontal, vertical, or some other angle in between any of them. That's mainly what that refers to, and I don't know if that's the same thing as this.
It may not be. Proposed experiments. What we are trying to find out, our key is to know the speed of light. Is it a constant of the universe or a variable? If light is variable, then the whole of science has to change, because everything comes back to the speed of light. These two experiments look at light, gravity, and time to test what the variable is. So if you want to, you scroll down, there's a proposed gravity frame experiment there. You want to bring that diagram up. Okay. And gravitational local light frame experiment, which is, yes, that one there. According to Einstein's relativity theory, light moves through local rest frames at its constant speed. A local rest frame is best described as a place we are standing, which we observe as not moving. But as we all know, we are all moving as the Earth rotates at high speed, but doesn't alter local time speed. The Sagnac interferometer detects the local rest frames as well as a global level. Our experiment is wanting to see if we can make gravity change the local rest frame from outside the interferometer to become local to the interferometer by adding heavy layers. What could this experiment tell us? That small gravity can change the speed of light. And if you go to that proposed diagram there,
Which
I think
the one
it's
to the right?
the one that has the 3 faster, normal, slower. Yeah, there you go.
Get it.
Okay. Atomic clock time dilation experiment. Time dilation is considered to have accrued when clocks slow down or speed up, which is discovered when atomic clocks were flown around the world. This experiment seeks to reveal that it's not clocks slowing down by time dilation. Rather, it's simply the Sagnac effect that is just shortening the atom's circuit in one direction and lengthening it in another direction. This experiment will show that clocks are affected by light speed variations rather than time dilation.
Wow.
And then it goes
Light
on.
speed variations.
And then we've got 6 different ways to discover the nature of light. Finding light ether. And it looks like there's a, that first one all the way on the left-hand side there is what I'm got on screen here. Finding the light ether exists is a simple experiment that proves light is a wave, not a particle. And then we have gravitational lensing. Gravitational lensing demonstrates the existence of liquid gravity with light is being refracted through layers of increasing pressurized liquid. Ether wind. Ether exists when measuring light speed along its path and comparing it to its light speed across its path will prove ether is real. So why did it fail? Light wave particle. The photoelectric effect is the mystery of a light wave turning into an electron particle, which is the basis of light wave particle duality. Or is it? And black hole light trap. How do black holes trap light? Supposedly,
how could they trap light? Exactly.
Yeah. Supposedly, black holes trap light particles due to their huge gravity. But maybe there is another explanation that doesn't break the laws of physics. And that's the end of the document. We made it! High five.
Wow. Wow. Is this stuff food for thought? Not, if you're not a person of a mind to get into all of this scientific techie and pull your calculator out, that's okay. This is empowering, very empowering to think and just almost to have a knowing that there's so much more to the root and fundamental nature of our universe than what we've been taught.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at the comments. People have been paying attention. I'm glad, because I can't see the chat when I have something up there. So I don't know what you guys are saying.
Well, I'll tell you what, a lot of this stuff Yeah, I mean, I've listened to shows where I'm sitting there going, "Wow, this is a you concentrate, you think about it for a while, and you grasp little bits and pieces along the way, but then something else comes along 6 months later, and you go, wait a minute, now I heard about this. This seems like it might
Ties in.
tie in, correlate.
Yep.
You may, it may not connect now, but something later on may connect. That's
Right.
why you listen to these things. Just put it on the shelf and go, I might need that someday.
I walk away from this discussion tonight and carry so much of it with me. And the big picture is where my world as I have come to know it here is a whole lot more than I've either been taught or indoctrinated or programmed or conditioned or whatever it is. There's just a lot more out there. And if we just keep our minds open and look at all the possibilities and just keep thinking and think possibilities. This is awesome.
Throw
I really
away the
had fun
box
talking with you. Yep.
and take a journey, and don't hurt yourself, but don't be afraid to consider, look at, explore, and just find those little nuggets on the beach, take them home, put them on the shelf, and consider them. I mean, that's the glory of this existence that we live in.
Is there something, Nikola Tesla talked about the ether. I know I see Rooster is waiting.
Yeah.
But it just one more thing to leave. Nikola Tesla spoke about the ether and getting energy from the ether. Now, if the ether can exert a drag on light and change its trajectory, then doesn't that imply that it's got some kind of power or energy?
Ooh.
And that maybe that's what Nikola Tesla was talking about.
And
I don't know.
And it flows.
And it flows. Yep.
Okay. There is a pressure, which means you have, All right. Well, I think we're going to have to get the heck out because I think we're in somebody's parking spot here.
Well, thank you for letting me be part of this discussion with
that was fun
all
tonight.
of you guys tonight.
And well, thank you. You're the one that shot that article over and said, "Hey, this might be fun to play with tonight."
No, it came from Satcom. Yes, Satcom, you hear us? We see you there. You hear us here. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, great article. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Would everyone please take your seats and make sure all of your gear is stored in the overhead cabinets or in the seat below you. Make sure your seat backs and tables are in the upright position. We'll be flipping the ship around and getting back to home base, where there is an anxious trucker waiting for us there. We'll see him here in about 2 minutes. So 3, 2, 1, we're headed back. Thank you for joining us tonight on Hyperdrive.